It's all about the connection to source and each other, because only love matters. Only love matters, nothing else. And so when you go out from here, I want you to think of this, that you are here to anoint someone else with loving kindness. So when you're worried about homeless, when you're worried about poverty, when you're worried about racism or sexism, yours is to anoint them in loving kindness. Thank you. Celebration, that was fab. Don't know the words, yada da 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 da, right? I'm just making it up as I go along, even though I can read it, I'm so off sync. But I'm having a good time. Are you having a good time? Awesome. So today we are finishing up our talk series in October, which was the theme of appreciation and devotion. And I heard you had a really good time last week with Reverend Cindy in the house doing her talk. I heard it was real good, and I love when it's practical, right? Like, here's something that we can do, and so just appreciate you and appreciate having the moment off as well, so thank you. Yeah, so what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about being in that state of consciousness where we're cherishing and have this level of faithfulness to others, and how vital that is going to be for the well-being of humanity. I don't know about you, but you ever wish that there was a manual that really said, here's how you can take care of each other, folks? You know, I would even settle for a manual on how my body functions. Hello? Now, I'm not talking about the biology, here's the heart, it pumps, and the arteries and the veins. No, I'm talking about the really weird stuff that nobody tells you about. You know, here you are sleeping, you're in that comfy place in bed, and you're just feeling like everything's letting go. It feels so good, and then your body goes like that, right? Nobody talks about that. And at first I thought, oh my God, I'm having a seizure, right? Because nobody talks about it. And really what it is it's your brain somehow gets in its mind that, hello, you're gonna fall, and you're gonna fall to your death. So like, hey, wake up, don't die. Is really what that whole jerking is. But then there are other theories that say, you know, that's part of a natural way of when we're relaxing. If we are stressed, overtired, fatigued, that is kind of a reaction that we would have as well. So it's kind of like, all right, so I no longer have to be obsessed about that, because you know when we're obsessed about something, what happens? And more and more and more, right? So it's like, oh, clue, okay, this is normal humanity. I don't have to worry about this anymore. Nice, okay. What about you're having this meaningful conversation and all of a sudden the bottom of your eyelid just starts twitching out of control. And you feel like, wait, my whole face is being distorted right now, right? But it's really just that eye twitch, but you feel it's like every muscle in your face is going off. And you're like, oh my God, I'm now gonna have a stroke, right? Once again, that's not true. It's simple, your eyes are overtired, right? So it's either like light sensitivity, allergies, not watching that computer, the videos, right? So how do you take care of yourself? Get some sleep, take breaks with your eyes on the computer and video games, and hydrate. Okay. And then I'm gonna go here. You know, the gas that gets emitted out of our bodies. I bet sometimes you wish you had one of those babies. Maybe not for you, but maybe your significant other or your fur baby. Let's not forget them, right? So why does this occur? It's called flatulence, right? And it happens when our food's not fully digested. And so the bacteria gets involved and starts to break down all of the food there, which creates gas. And guess what? It's got to come out. It has to come out. That's part of humanity, right? So I'm just going to take an aside. Gentlemen, that does not mean Reverend Sheree is saying, just let it loose here in the sanctuary. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's normal. We don't have to torture and shame ourselves over it. And we honor the civilized way of excusing ourselves and going somewhere else. And then we get older. When we get older, we start forgetting names and dates and pertinent information. And maybe even we get a little embarrassed because I can't remember that, or I can't remember something that was so simple, or I'm not picking this up as fast as I used to learn things. And then we get really annoyed with ourselves because we are forgetful. But here's the thing. As we get older, our brain, it ages as well. Part of humanity, part of being human. But the nice thing is that when we understand how our bodies work, we get to be in amazement of them as opposed to be in resistance to what is. I don't know about you, but for a lot of years, I was just in this fight with my body. Oh, it's too big. Oh, it's too tall. Oh, whatever it is. And it's like, oh my God, how wonderful is this gift, right? This is the vehicle that I selected for my soul's journey right now on this plane of existence. Do you hear the difference in that? That's love. That's appreciation. That's devotion. So you know what? The next time that you're having friends over and you forget someone's name and you go to introduce them and you get a blank and it's like, that's okay, just be gentle with yourself. My brain's having a moment, right? And then just interact like you normally would. And when we're no longer beating ourselves up about this, guess what? The name's probably gonna just pop right then because you're not underneath that anxiety. And if it doesn't, have a moment, just flow with it, right? Okay. So these are just things about our bodies that, the weird things. Like, you know what else I learned? Your ear never stops growing. Who knew that? That's just bizarre. You did? I see 2 hands that went up. Okay. So in all of this, there's an awakening and an awareness that we can look at ourselves differently. We can be kinder to ourselves. And then I started going to, wow, what if there was a manual about how we could be in loving service to our friends, our families, the people that know how to push our buttons, those people. Wouldn't it be amazing? I'm like, if only there was something. If only there was some kind of sacred text that could inform us of how we should be with each other. Well, there are numerous sacred texts. So I'm going to give 3 today and do a little metaphysics with it and come out the other side. All right, so the first one is from the Islamic wisdom culture, and it's a collection of stories in this book called Arabian Wisdom, and it's written by John Waterbett. And the selection that I've chosen here is about flaunting kindness. And this was written back in 1914. The bane of a generous action is to mention it. It is better to refuse a kindness than to be reminded of it. I would not accept the whole world if I were to suffer the humiliation of being constantly reminded of the gift. To bestow and flaunt a kindness and to be stingy and refuse to do an act of kindness are equally bad. When you do a kindness, hide it. And when a kindness is done to you, proclaim it. Do good and throw it in the sea. Pretty powerful, right? So what does this mean? It's talking about our intentions, yes? Our intentions. Are we being kind to someone because we think that's what we're supposed to do? Like, that's what good people do. Are we being kind to another because we want to be seen and rewarded for it? Because if the answer to any of those questions is a yes, then we really have to be in the question, are we being kind at all or simply pushing our hidden agenda? You hear the difference there? If our intention is to be God in skin, then our intentions of kindness are simply honoring the divinity in another. Plain and simple. We are here to be of one mind and one heart and to lift our brothers and sisters up, right? So if a kindness is bestowed upon us, yes, let's shout it to the rooftops. Because when we do that, we are sharing the abundance of the universe and what is possible for every one of us. Next sacred text. This comes from the Baha'i tradition. And if you were here a few months ago, I actually talked about the Baha'i. And I love just their faith. And this is from The Splendor of God, and it's written by Eric Hammond and published in 1909. And this has sayings and texts from the founders of the Baha'i religion, which include Bab Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. And it says this: to live the life, to be no cause of grief to anyone, to love each other fully, to be kind to all people and to love them with a pure spirit. Should opposition or injury happen, we must bear it and be kind, and through all we must love the people. Should calamity exist in the greatest degree, we must rejoice, for these things are the gifts and favors of God. Bless you, love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down a little bit, and I'm going to use Charles Fillmore's The Revealing Word to look at some of the words that I've highlighted there in blue to redefine, to look at them metaphysically. So the first word that we're going to look at is life, right? To live the life. Fillmore suggests that life is divine, spiritual, and its source is God, right? The river of life within man is spiritual consciousness. The river of life within man is spiritual consciousness. So we can gather from that understanding that really to live life fully means that we live from our divinity, right? Not from materialism, not from consumerism, not by societal definitions, but to live from our divinity, to live from our divinity. The next word I want to look at is love. Fillmore states that love is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony the universe and everything in it. So this is oneness, no? Talking about oneness. And then I love the word that people and how Fillmore defines it. Members of the body of Christ. So imagine walking down the street, people, members of the body of Christ, members of the body of Christ, members of wherever you go, members of the body of Christ. It takes on a different meaning. So what we're saying is everyone is the I am. Everyone. And we're here to be love and let love do its work of harmonizing us all. And then the word gift means manifestation of spirit in each person, and God is spiritual ideas and ideals of eternal truth. So let's put that all together. To live from our divinity is to be no cause of grief to anyone, to be in oneness with each other fully, to be kind to all members of the body of Christ, and to be in harmony with a pure spirit. Should opposition or injury happen, we must bear it and be kind, and through all, we must affirm oneness. Should calamity exist in the greatest degree, we must rejoice, for these things are divinity. Hear that. These things are divinity and favors of eternal truth. Powerful? Yeah, we're talking about being spiritual beings centered in truth, centered in love, centered in oneness. And knowing that everything that we experience in our lives, whether we label it as good, bad, happy, catastrophic, is all for our highest good, all to support our knowing of our truth. But I ain't finished with you yet. One more. This is from the mystical side of Christianity, and this is the adornment of the spiritual marriage, and this is by Jan van Ruysbroek, who it's published in 1916, but he was a 14th century Flemish mystic who was actually beatified, meaning that the Catholic Church made him a saint in 1908. And here's what he writes. Out of the same source wherein meekness takes its rise springs kindliness, for none can be kind save the meek man. This kindness makes a man show a friendly face and give a cordial response to do compassionate deeds to those who are quarrelsome. Don't know any of those folks, do you? When he hopes that they will come to know themselves and mend their ways. By gentleness and kindness, charity is kept quick and fruitful in man. For a heart full of kindness is like a lamp full of precious oil. For the oil of mercy enlightens the erring sinner. With good example and with words and works of comfort, it anoints and heals those whose hearts are wounded or grieved or perplexed. And it is a fire and a light for those who dwell in the virtues in the fire of charity. Neither jealousy nor envy can perturb it. 14th century. We're talking here about the same things that we're talking about today. So I'm going to look at a couple of words here. One is the meek man. Now I know when we hear the meek man, we often think weakness, don't we? Right? We think of somebody who's really mild. But Fillmore disavows this notion. He says, meek is anyone highly trained to react to all negative stimuli with love instead of an eye for an eye. With love. I get all geflimped about that, but okay. So one can deduce that really kindness comes by being the frequency of love. And then the author suggests being kind in the face of those who are not. And that somehow that's giving them hope to know the truth of who they really are, right? It's not saying we will change people. It's not saying we will go out there and convince them there's another way. No, it's just here we are being the truth to remind them that they are of love and of God. You see, we are acting as a divining rod. What does a divining rod do? Okay, Liz is giving me that. Finds water, thank you. It also finds precious gems and metals, right? So we are the divining rod. Divinity, 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 divinity. Imagine that. Imagine just by being that, we are changing the world. And then I love that Ruysbroek also sees kindness as a precious oil, right? Enlightening and healing another. And Fillmore says oil is love which is poured over anything, making it holy or a perfect whole. So once again, what we're talking about, my friends, is that it's through kindness and love that we transform the world. So, are there manuals? There's tons of manuals. Tons of different sacred texts from all different religions. Pick one. Doesn't matter. We don't care what pathway you use, right? It's all about the connection to source and each other. because only love matters. Only love matters, nothing else. And so when you go out from here, I want you to think of this, that you are here to anoint someone else with loving kindness. So when you're worried about homeless, when you're worried about poverty, when you're worried about racism or sexism, yours is to anoint them in loving kindness. We're going to create something amazing here. Thank you.